Friends, before us lies an authentic ancient coin of the Roman Emperor Trajan. Depicted on it is a goddess representing the famous Trajan's Road. This route created a shorter and more convenient path from Beneventum to Brundisium, the main port connecting Italy with Greece and the East, and played a strategic role in the life of the empire. Yes, you heard correctly. The emperor actually minted a silver denarius, dedicating an entire goddess to his famous road. Having your own goddess for a road is a unique case in history, by the way. Such deification represents the only instance of its kind in the coinage of the Roman Empire. Were Roman roads really so impressive and reliable? Why, after all, modern ones are surely millions of times stronger and better. Not quite, and now I'll tell you about this in detail. In 2019, an event occurred in Britain that left engineers worldwide scratching their heads. A section of the A1 motorway collapsed, one of the country's main transport arteries, built in the 1960s using the most advanced technologies available at the time. But here's the truly astonishing part. Just 500 meters from the disaster site runs the ancient Roman road Ermine Street, which is almost 2,000 years old. This road was one of the main military routes built by the Romans after conquering Britain in the 1st century CE. It connected key provincial centers, Londinium, modern London, and Lindum, Lincoln, ensuring control over the north. And it's still in use. Local farmers drive tractors along it, tourists walk on it, and in some places it even carries automobile traffic. The entire paradox lies in the fact that modern engineers, with their computer modeling, space-age technologies, and incredible materials, are losing to illiterate Roman legionaries with seemingly primitive tools. A road in England, built by slaves and soldiers, has survived Vikings, the Norman conquest, the Industrial Revolution, 2 world wars, and now calmly outlives our vaunted modern infrastructure. How is this possible? Why can't we, conquerors of space and creators of artificial intelligence, build a road that will stand for at least a century without major repairs? What is the secret of the Romans? To understand the secret of Roman roads, we must first penetrate the consciousness of those who built them. For Romans, a road was not simply a means of getting from point A to point B, it was a symbol of the empire's eternity, a symbol of civilization conquering the chaos of barbarism. The concept of Roma Aeterna, eternal Rome, permeated all Roman worldview, and roads were the physical embodiment of this idea. For example, the famous Via Domitiana. This coastal road was built by order of Emperor Domitian in 95 CE and created a fast and convenient route along the Campanian coast, about which his contemporary, the poet Statius, wrote with rapture in his work Sylvie, calling it the Queen of Roads. He further writes that it tamed wild places. Now you understand that for Romans, a road was not just an engineering structure, but a living being, a royal personage that conquers and civilizes barbarian lands. Livy, describing the construction of the first great Roman road, the Via Appia, in his monumental History of Rome from the foundation of the city, uses the word magnificentia, magnificence. Not utility, not convenience, but magnificence. The Appian Way was meant not simply to connect Rome with Capua, it was meant to demonstrate to the entire world, Rome has passed here, and this is forever. Picture a meeting of the Roman Senate in 312 BCE. Censor Appius Claudius Caecus proposes building a road. Senators frown. How much will this cost? Appius replies, expensive, very expensive, but our great-grandchildren will travel this road without spending a single as on repairs. And you know what? He was right. The Via Appia is still in use, 2,335 years after construction. Now compare this with the modern approach. Let's try to guess together what the first question investors will ask at a presentation for a new highway project. It will sound something like, in how many years will our investment pay off? And the second, what's the service life before major repairs? Today's answer is roughly 25-30 years with intensive traffic. Maximum 30 years. Romans would have burst out laughing. But it's not just about money. It's about the very philosophy of construction. The modern economy is built on the principle of planned obsolescence. It's profitable for us when roads deteriorate. This creates jobs, stimulates the economy, provides government contracts. For Romans, it was profitable to build forever. This demonstrated the empire's might, created a sense of stability and eternity of Roman order. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Our duty is to act for the benefit of the entire human community, including future generations." Notice, not children, not grandchildren, but all future generations. This is a fundamental difference in thinking. We build for quarterly reports, Romans built for eternity. Now let's dispel one of the most persistent myths about Roman roads. Everyone seems convinced they were built by slaves driven by overseers' whips. Most people picture scenes almost like the building of Egyptian pyramids, where whips crack from one back to another while slaves drag hundreds of tons of building materials. Nonsense. Complete nonsense. 80% of Roman roads were built by legionaries, professional soldiers, the elite of Roman society. Vegetius, in his military treatise, Epitome of Military Science, describes in detail how this happened. Each legion had special units, immunes, soldiers exempted from usual military duties because of their special skills. Among them were mensors, surveyors, librators, levelers, lapidarii, stonecutters, and even architecti, military engineers. Picture a typical day of road construction. Here's a centurion shouting commands. His soldiers are not exhausted slaves, but strong men, each capable of marching 30 kilometers in full gear and then building a fortified camp. These people conquered nations, stormed cities. They were accustomed to discipline and precision, and now they applied this same discipline to road construction. We have amazing evidence, an inscription found in Germany. It's a stone slab on which soldiers of the 8th Augustan Legion immortalized the fact of building a road section. The text reads, "Emperor Caesar Trajan Hadrian Augustus. The 8th Augustan Legion laid the road from, to," and then follow the names of the centurions who supervised the work. These aren't faceless slaves. These are proud warriors leaving their names in history. But why exactly legionaries? The answer is simple and brilliant simultaneously. First, discipline. Try making a crowd of slaves precisely maintain a specific road gradient over 50 kilometers, but legionaries were accustomed to executing orders with absolute precision. Second, motivation. Soldiers built roads for themselves. They would march along these very roads on their next campaign. Their pay and letters from home would be transported along them. The fewer bumps, the less their wounded brothers-in-arms would be jolted in wagons. There's an amazing story recorded by Tacitus. The legion of Gnaeus Domitius Corbulo was building a road in Armenia. Work proceeded slowly, rocky terrain, water shortage. Soldiers grumbled. Then Corbulo gathered them and said, "This road is your shield. When the Parthians attack, and they will attack, you'll retreat along this road 3 times faster than they can pursue. Your laziness today is your death tomorrow." The next day work resumed with doubled energy. Compare this with the modern approach. Who builds our roads? Contractors who won tenders by offering the lowest price. Their goal is to meet budget and deadlines. Quality comes last. They'll never drive on this road. Their children won't walk to school on it. It's just work, not a life's mission. Roman legionaries built roads the same way they waged war, methodically, disciplined, calculated for complete victory. Victory over distance, time, and nature. And you know what? They won this war. Their roads still stand. Now let's dissect a Roman road like a pathologist dissects a body. Let's cut it open and see what's inside. Why do these ancient structures outlive our modern autobahns? A classic Roman road isn't just a strip of neatly laid stones. It's a complex engineering structure of 3 to 4 layers, each performing its function. At the bottom, statumen, a foundation of large stones, sometimes up to 60 centimeters in diameter. These stones weren't just thrown into a pit, they were carefully laid, creating a drainage system. Imagine you dig a trench a meter to a meter and a half deep. At the bottom you lay huge boulders, but not haphazardly, arranged so gaps remain between them for water drainage. This is brilliant. Water is any road's main enemy. It penetrates cracks, freezes, expands, and tears the surface apart from within. Who knows this better than us, watching roads turn into obstacle courses for car suspensions after every winter? Romans understood this 2,000 years ago. The next layer, rudis, gravel mixed with lime mortar. But not just mixed. Archaeologists studying preserved sections of the Via Appia discovered something amazing. The ratio of gravel to binding mortar changes depending on terrain. On hills where load is greater, there's more mortar. In lowlands where drainage is more important, more gravel. They had to think this through. The third layer, nucleus, fine gravel, almost sand, but again with lime. This layer worked as a cushion, distributing load. And finally, the top, summum dorsum, the road's back. Huge basalt slabs fitted together so tightly you couldn't slip a knife blade between them. But you know what's most astounding? In 2017, a group of scientists examined samples of Roman concrete from ancient roads and discovered something incredible. This concrete self-repairs. It contains inclusions of quicklime. When a crack appears and water gets in, the lime reacts, expands, and fills the crack. The road repairs itself. Modern scientists struggled for years to create self-healing concrete. They conducted experiments, wrote dissertations, but Romans simply did it 2,000 years ago. How? Did they know chemistry better than us? No, of course not. They simply observed and experimented for centuries. Trial and error, multiplied by time and persistence. But Romans' main secret is volcanic ash, pulvis puteolenus, mined near Puteoli, modern Pozzuoli. Pliny the Elder writes in Natural History, there is a type of sand that by its nature possesses amazing properties. Mix it with lime and stones, and you get a mass of such strength that even sea waves cannot harm it. Modern concrete begins deteriorating after 50 years. Roman concrete only gets stronger. Seawater, which corrodes modern structures, makes Roman concrete more durable. The chemical reaction between volcanic ash, lime, and sea salt creates new minerals that strengthen the structure. Now compare with how roads are built today. A thin layer of asphalt on a concrete foundation. That's it. No drainage, no multi-layer system. A crack appears, water gets inside, freezes in winter, becomes a pothole in spring. And so every year. Romans solved this problem 2 millennia ago, while we still patch holes every spring. And who among us is the true civilization? But let's not be so categorical, diminishing modern technologies while elevating Roman ones. Let's be objective. Not everything about Roman roads was perfect. They had serious disadvantages, and it's important to discuss them to understand the complete picture. Let's start with advantages. First and foremost, durability. The Via Appia has functioned for 2,335 years. Think about this number. This road is older than Christianity. It witnessed Julius Caesar and Napoleon. Trajan's legions and Allied tanks in World War II marched along it. Second, drainage. Roman engineers were obsessed with water removal. Along each road ran ditches, fossae in Latin, but not simple ditches. Their bottoms were stone-lined, walls reinforced. Water didn't erode the road, but obediently flowed where intended. Third, straightness. Romans didn't meander. They went straight through mountains, swamps, forests. The Via Appia from Rome to Terracina deviates less than 100 meters from a straight line over 90 kilometers. How did they do this without satellites and theodolites? They used an instrument called groma, simple but brilliant device for constructing right angles and lines. But here we approach the disadvantages. The first is surface rigidity. Riding on basalt slabs in a Roman cart without springs was quite an experience. Every stone resonated in your spine. Seneca complained in letters, "After traveling on the Appian Way, I feel as if I've been beaten with sticks." The second disadvantage, narrowness. A standard Roman road was designed for two carts traveling in opposite directions. That's about 4 or 5 meters, catastrophically narrow for modern transport. Overtaking, forget it. 2 hay wagons meet traffic jam for an hour. Third, complete unsuitability for automobile traffic. Basalt slabs become slippery as ice after rain. Braking distance increases dramatically. Not surprisingly, in Italy, sections of ancient roads where automobile traffic is permitted are champions in accident statistics. But you know what the paradox is? What we consider disadvantages were advantages for Romans. Rigidity, horse hooves don't get stuck in mud. Narrowness, easier to defend against bandits. Straightness at any cost, legions reach their destination in the shortest possible time. The history of the Via Appia illustrates this best. 312 wars have passed through Italy since its construction. Goths, Lombards, Saracens, Normans, French, Spanish, Austrians, Germans, all marched along this road. Cities around it were burned and rebuilt dozens of times. Empires fell, but the road stands. In 1943, the Allies bombed a section of the Via Appia near Formia, trying to cut off German troops. Result, several craters that sappers filled in a day. Basalt slabs didn't even crack. Try bombing a modern autobahn, you'll be rebuilding for months. Something amazing emerges. Roman roads survived not despite their disadvantages, but because of them. Their primitiveness turned out to be their strength. Simple, crude, indestructible construction defeated all our technological innovations. Friends, you know what I realized studying Roman roads? Romans didn't build roads. They built symbols of eternity. Every stone, every slab was an assertion. Rome is eternal. Rome will remain when everything else turns to dust. And you know what? They were right. Rome fell in 476 CE. But Roman roads remained. Barbarians who destroyed the empire walked along them. Crusaders marched on them. World War II tanks rolled along them. 21st century tourist buses drive on them. What's the secret? Not in technologies, not in materials, but in philosophy. We build roads as disposable items. Built, used, discarded, built anew. This benefits the economy, creates jobs, generates GDP. Romans built as a legacy to descendants. They couldn't imagine their empire would fall, but even if they could, they would have built exactly the same way. Because a road is more than a means of transportation. It's materialized will to eternity. Can modern civilization repeat their success? Technically, yes, we have all the technologies. We can synthesize an analog of Roman concrete, lay basalt slabs even more precisely than Romans. But will we want to? Is it necessary? Here's the question I leave you with. Are we ready to pay 3 times more today so our descendants 1,000 years from now will thank us? Are we ready to build not for quarterly reports, but for eternity? Roman roads are a challenge to our time. They say, we could, can you? And while we patch potholes every spring on roads built 10 years ago, somewhere in Italy a peasant calmly carries his harvest along a road that's over 2,000 years old. Sic transit gloria mundi, thus passes worldly glory, but Roman roads remain. They outlived glory, they'll outlive oblivion too, because they weren't built for glory. They were built for eternity. Thank you for being with me. Hit like, share the video with friends, and definitely write in the comments, which Roman roads have you seen with your own eyes? I, for example, climbed Roman paths in the Crimean mountains. Maybe you have your own stories of encounters with these stone witnesses of eternity. See you in the next episode.